Welcome back to the pod. We're going to be back here today to talk some NFL, some college, some combine, some draft, all the above. I think it's a great time. Early March, the combine just finished up. Free agency starts next week. And the draft's obviously at the end of April, one of my favorite times of the year. So I think I just want to spend a little bit of time diving into some of the players in the draft, where they might fit, free agency, some of the trades that have happened in the NFL this week. There's a few big trades and potential trades. And just going to dive right into it. I think to start, I'd like to start with the draft, talk about some of the prospects, people I like, people I don't like, just a little bit about some of the names that, if you're someone who's like a football fan but has a life and doesn't have time to watch the combine and deep dive all these guys, then maybe give you a little bit of a heads up of who's who and go from there. And then after that, we can dive into some of the trades that happened this week. So first things first is going to be the quarterbacks, right? Every single year, in every situation, in all aspects of football, it's the quarterback. So who is the number one quarterback? I think everyone knows that it's Fernando Mendoza out of Indiana. He is the unquestioned QB1 in this class. And the difference between QB1 and QB2 is quite a bit. That's going to be a huge drop-off. One of the bigger drop-offs in recent memory in terms of the first quarterback to the second quarterback. And, really that would depend in this draft how much you like Ty Simpson, who is going to be QB2 here. So let's talk a little bit about Mendoza. He's an accurate thrower. He's got great size, which is one thing that a few of the quarterbacks that have come out, a few of the number one picks in the last, if you look back at like a Kyler Murray, a Baker Mayfield, a Bryce Young, who did not have the ideal size. Baker was a bigger guy, so he had some kind of to him, run the ball, just be a little tougher, but Bryce Young, undersized. Conner, obviously very undersized. Tua, also very undersized. Mendoza has great size, which is, to me, something that for a number one quarterback prospect, it's just not something you want to mess around with. The reason I just mentioned those three guys who are currently playing in the NFL is because they're not doing great. Two of them are going to be free agents, and Bryce Young, I would say, is extremely scheme-dependent, which is why the size really does matter. In terms of outside of his size, what does he do? Like I said, he's an accurate thrower. He's very tough. I would say throughout this podcast, I'm going to talk about certain guys, and you can be really, really technical. You can talk about someone's footwork and their mechanics as a quarterback, or you could just talk about like toughness and grit and how they would be in a locker room. And I think that both are important. And with Mendoza, to me, the toughness stood out. He took some big hits at the beginning of games. At the beginning of the Ohio State game, he got absolutely whacked and was down on the field. I thought he had a concussion, and he comes back into the game. Obviously, they won that game, did not affect him. He took some really big hits. He stayed in the pocket, and he drives the ball when he needs to. He's got really quick hands, good mechanics, and really quick hands. So quick throws, he's extremely efficient. He's an RPO, I don't say master, but excellent on the RPO game. If you're going to draft him, which as we will get to, but the Raiders will, he is minus $1 million to be the first overall pick. So he's going to be a Raider. They need to have that RPO game in. It just, you get players, and then you build the scheme around them. That's how it always should be. It's not how it always has been, but it's how it should be. If there's a tall corner and you like fast corners, you figure out, and that guy's the best corner, you take him and you figure out a way to make his skills work for you. That's how it should always be. So Mendoza, going to be a lot of RPOs, a lot of quick throws. The quick throws I think were great, but it also had me question a little bit where, since so many of his throws are quick and RPO type throws, and I will have this discussion about a lot of different players in terms of they only do one thing, right? Like wide receivers from Tennessee only run vertical routes. They don't have an extended route tree, for example. Does he have the ability to drive the ball to other types of throws? Can he layer it? Can he throw it, can he throw deep? Can he throw medium? He's an excellent seam ball thrower, and he really is, he shows really great accuracy with back shoulder throws. The guy's like a back shoulder, one of the better back shoulder throwers I think I've seen in college. He just nails them. He does not miss those throws. And if you go through the Big Ten championship, the college football playoff. He just did it over and over and over again. And I think that it was really, really impressive. In terms of how good is his arm? Does he have a Josh Allen type arm? No. Does he have a Baker Mayfield type arm? No. I would say he's more similar to Baker. But he definitely does not have like an absolute cannon. He is not going to, throw a 30-yard out route on the money to the sideline. However, when he really needs to, if you look at his 3rd and long tape, because that's where you're not going to make that quick throw or that RPO. When he needs to get it there, he gets it there. And again, with good placement. But I would say it's not like he can just do whatever he wants with the arm. He doesn't have a magic arm, which don't need it. I would say it's it's a little above average. In terms of what I don't like about Mendoza is I don't love his pocket, kind of how he is in the pocket really overall. One thing about Shedeur Sanders last year, outside of all the other noise, was that he's a horrible pocket manager. He just looks lost in the pocket. And for me, if you can't do it in college, you're not going to do it in the pros. Especially when, using Shedeur as an example, he had a terrible offensive line in college, so a little different. But Mendoza, Indiana had one of the better offensive lines in football this year. He's going to the Raiders. They have maybe the worst offensive line in football. He's not going to... So that, to me, it's a concern, and I will be very interested to see how he does in the NFL with a lot less time. It's like his footwork, he almost has a little bit of, when he feels the pressure and he drops his eyes, that ball is running. He kind of drops his eyes and he's just looking to run. Like, he didn't feel like he was a super comfortable pocket guy, but I like his mobility. He's not going to be a scrambler. He doesn't have the running ability of like Drake May, but he can move. He's athletic enough, right? In this modern NFL, you just need to be able to move a little bit. You can't just not move. That run in the national championship game for a touchdown, oh my goodness, that's one of the better plays of the season. So with his size, his arm, I've seen this be a pro comp for him for a million different reasons and from a bunch of different people, but he's kind of a Matt Ryan, right? Younger Matt Ryan, where he's got the arm. I think Matt Ryan had a better arm than he did in the NFL, but, he's still, obviously Mendoza hasn't been drafted yet, so give him some time. But I see him kind of being a slightly, like a worse Matt Ryan. If I was going to be, that would be a good comparison for me. Do I think he's worthy of being the number 1 overall pick? It makes too much sense for a team. Everyone's like, oh, next year's draft, which hopefully I don't talk too much about because we got this year's draft, but if you don't know, the big consensus around the league is that this year's draft is really weak and next year's draft is really strong. Not like a little bit, like next year's draft might be one of the best in the last 10 years and this might be one of the worst. That was the sentiment. I will say that Combine has kind of alleviated a little bit of that. There's a lot of depth in this class and there are some good players, just not as many blue chip prospects. So to me, him being the number 1 overall pick, there's no need. You don't wait till next year. You just don't know. You never know. He's good enough to be the first overall pick. It makes too much sense. So for me, it makes sense. He will be a Raider. I guarantee it, really. And it'll be very interesting to see how he does in that scheme with Ashton Jeanty and company. The next quarterback is Ty Simpson. Ty Simpson is strange a little bit. He's a bit of a strange prospect. I have watched a decent amount of Ty Simpson, and I've done a lot of work on Ty Simpson because he's a guy that as a casual, but as a college football fan, I don't just watch every Alabama game, right? I watch the Big Ten as an Ohio State fan, and I'm not watching Ty Simpson play every week. So I remember he had a game against Georgia earlier in the year, if anyone remembers that, where he balled out and they beat Georgia. There was a big win. He played great, and that was kind of what put him on, not that he wasn't on the radar, but really put him on the radar in a way to being like, this guy could be a first-round pick. The problem is the back half of the season. He was hurt. I've heard, I don't remember exactly what the murmurs were of what actually happened to him, but he really did not play well down the stretch. I would say it was borderline bad. My issue with him is he's not big, right? He's 6'1", 210, so he doesn't have the ideal size. He's pretty much just small in general. He's got, slightly smaller hands. He's a little shorter, like I said, so he can run a little bit, but to me, the frame is an issue. It's not an ideal frame. He doesn't have a dream arm. It's really just, to me, a solid arm. It's nothing more. A guy like C.J. Stroud, even at the combine, zipped the ball way better than he did, Ty Simpson. And one thing that I try not to, it's already 10 minutes in, so I won't talk about it for too long, but the real issue with Simpson, and this is something that I think everyone should pay attention to anytime your team needs a quarterback, you're interested in that kind of thing, is what did their starts in college look like? Because there is a trend where guys who have not started more than one season of games as a quarterback, just a quarterback, they're just not successful in the NFL. I saw a long list of guys that are one-year starters, first-round picks, and let me tell you, the best one, Cam Newton, right? He was one of them, and not to say like, oh, well, but Cam was a bit of a anomaly with his unbelievable, he was a specimen, obviously. So we can give Cam, right? The next best is Ryan Tannehill. And there's a lot of guys on this list, okay? It's just the quarterback position, especially in today's NFL where you're expected to come in and play right away, having a guy that doesn't, it's hard, you can't really learn on the job in the NFL as a guy that's only had one season to start. So Ty Simpson, to me, is not good enough to really gamble on. With 1 year of starts, I don't think he passes the specimen test. He doesn't pass the arm test in terms of, he's good, right? He's not great. He's probably a second-round pick. The big thing is, as we know, teams got him up for quarterback. So where does he fit? I think he fits really well in Minnesota. I don't think they'll do that, but I think he fits well there. The Cardinals is really what makes too much sense. The Jets are committing suicide if they draft him. That would be unbelievably dumb. The Cardinals, it makes more sense. He's a little bit of a scrambler. They need a quarterback. They don't have anyone. But the Cardinals are going to be bad next year. That division, man, Seattle, LA, and San Fran, they are going to lose a lot of games. To me, it's really not worth wasting a first or, let's say, they have a very early second on a guy like Ty Simpson. I would wait, but someone will take him. I would not be shocked if it was the Cardinals. So for quarterbacks, I don't really want to spend too much more time on quarterbacks. There's a few interesting guys. Taylor Green, if no one saw, he the best testing I possibly have ever seen. 4.36, 43.5 vert, unbelievable testing. He might be converted to a receiver, but to me, he's still really raw. I do like Carson Beck. I thought he had a good workout. And Garrett Nussmeier is an interesting case where he was hurt all year and he said he couldn't throw the ball well. He had a good tape last year, was expected to be a first-round pick, and will absolutely not be a first-round pick this year. So a couple guys to keep an eye on as late-round darts in a weak class. For running back, Jeremiah Love is a freak. I'm seeing now based on, we're 13 minutes in, so I'm realizing that going position by position might be a little bit too much, so going to speed it up a little bit. But Jeremiah Love is a freak. There's really not much else that needs to be said in terms of how I view him as a prospect compared to the other top prospect running backs. So a few guys, I don't have lists in front of me, so just a few guys that come to mind. Obviously, Ashton Jeanty last year, but a guy like Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, Ezekiel Elliott, Leonard Fournette, these are all, Bijan Robinson, all guys that were drafted in the top 10, which there's not many of them, right? I mean, running backs don't go that early. I have Jeremiah Love as probably the first or second best prospect of that group. I've seen people say that that's a pretty, it's overkill, but I don't think it is. I think he is a Zeke Saquon-like prospect. I definitely say he's better than Bijan. I'd say he's better than Jeanty. He does everything. He does everything at an exceptionally high level. He tested off the charts. He's going to be a 3-down back. He's going to do everything for you. And he's the best player in the class to me. I would have, if I was doing a big board, which thankfully I don't have to, he would be number one. Very interesting, and we'll talk a little bit about mock draft a little bit down the line here. At the end, I'm going to go through these players, talk a little bit about them. Then we're going to go through a little bit of current NFL stuff, and at the end, I'd like to go through a little bit of maybe just a run-through mock of the first about 20 picks where I think guys could slot. So we'll talk about that a little bit later, but Love, great prospect. Then he's got his teammate, Jadarian Price. Pretty rare you'd see two guys from the same team at running back 1 and 2. Those are the clear 1 and 2 in this draft, too. It's really not much of a debate. Jadarian Price played really well in college. It's just tough when you have the best player in the country ahead of you. You're not going to get as many reps. He didn't prove that he could catch the ball in college because he didn't get a lot of reps, so I know that was one thing he was looking to prove at the combine. He had a good workout. He looked good. Ran 4.49. I think that's fine. Doesn't jump out, but I think that's fine. He's clear RB2. I think he will continue to move upwards. I think a team like Denver at the end of round 1, or the teams maybe at the beginning of round 2 that could use a running back, I think he could go as early as the end of round 1. I like him at the beginning of round 2. and I like him to be a solid pro who doesn't have too much wear on his tires because he hasn't really played. In terms of the rest of the running backs, no one to me that is just a stud or stands out. There's a few interesting guys. Emmett Johnson out of Nebraska had a good. I like his tape a lot, and Mike Washington Jr. out of Arkansas, who ran that 4.33, fastest of any running back. He will most likely end up being the third running back off the board because of the combine. So very interested to see how he does there. On to receivers. If I'm being transparent, there's certain positions where when I watch film or when I analyze players that I feel like I understand better or worse, or that some years I just kind of dive into some groups and then I don't dive into others. So this year, receivers is not my number one strong suit along with offensive linemen. I've really invested most of my time on defense this year. It's unfortunately as a Cowboys fan, we need all defense, so that's where I've invested my time, and I really like the defense better than the offense, but still some great players here. The issue for me is that I don't love any of the receivers. Really, none of them stand out to me. Are there first-round talents? Yes. Are there playmakers? Yes. Are there guys that are going to be good NFL players? Absolutely. And I think in this league, anyone who watches football understands that receivers are just going to keep getting better and better in terms of production because we throw the ball every other play, right? So if you're in an offense, if you're in a good team, then they will find the way to get you the ball and you will be open. If you're on a bad team, you're going to be losing and you will still get the ball. It's just very easy to accumulate stats. So these guys will be some really good players. To the players. For me, number one wide receiver is Carnell Tate. Buckeye, obviously no bias or anything. He's a good player. He's tall. He's very long. I didn't really watch a lot of his tape because I watched him all year. So he's one guy that I should probably go back and take a little bit of a look. But he has good play speed. He didn't run. He ran 4.53, which for those who aren't freaking out over the combine, he was expected to run a bit faster, and people were a bit thrown off that he only ran 4.53. But, CeeDee Lamb ran basically the same time. And to me, he looked slower than CeeDee did on tape. That's kind of what I would have guessed his time would have been. So, to me, it doesn't affect anything. He showed that he's fast enough, right? His top speed is not his strength. In fact, his one weakness, which kind of rude to just can off the start, is his run after catch is not great, right? Which in today's NFL, more and more guys like Puka Nacua, right, are excellent run after catch receivers. CeeDee Lamb, excellent run after catch receivers. It's not easy to tackle a guy like A.J. Brown either. And the guys who aren't, quote unquote run after catch receivers like, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, they are good after the catch too. I'd say Tate is that's his weakness for me. He's got a long stride. He is excellent. He's a route running technician. He's got great hands, great at tracking the ball. And he's an athlete. He's athletic. It's not like he's, to me, a guy that's just like an athlete, but he's a good football player. I think that some of the concerns this week are overblown. I think he's the best receiver in this class. If you want, to me, like the way I would describe him, 3 words: silky smooth with good hands. Line up anywhere on the field. Next would be Lemon from USC. I feel like he had a weird combine, Mekhi Lemon. So he's going to be the best run after catch guy in this class. His pro comp, Amon-Ra St. Brown, easy. Went to the same school, played the slot. They are very similar. I mean, he is basically an Amon-Ra light, except for that coming out of school, he's better. I mean, he's faster, he's better, he's more production. Like, Amon-Ra was a 4th round pick. He apparently interviewed poorly. I saw that his podium session was a bit strange. And the rumors are that his interview process was horrendous. I read it was like really, really bad. So I don't know that that'll have any effect. Football player. I see him going in the middle of round 1. He is interesting because he's a slot guy, right? In a few years ago, a slot-only guy would not be a top 10 pick or top 15 pick, but it's a different league, right? I mean, people are very, very cool with, look at Amon-Ra St. Brown. He basically exclusively plays a slot, and he's a hell of a player, right? So, to me, he's excellent. And the one thing about him is he is a tough pass catcher. For a short, he's 5'11", 192. But you throw him the ball in traffic, he will catch that fucking ball. He really, really makes some impressive plays over the middle where he gets whacked. He holds on. Honestly, it's very cool to watch him make some of those catches along with his teammate Jacoby Lane. So, to me, I have him as a Doug Baldwin comp. I think that's a good one, or of a tough, shorter kind of guy. I like him. I'm very interested to see where he goes. Another one of those guys I think could benefit a lot by a good landing spot. There's about two more receivers I want to discuss. Obviously, we could be here all day. There's a lot of them, right? Of course. For receivers, I would say that there's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 or so, more like 13 or so guys that I would consider to be, worth knowing who they are. Like, Malachi Fields at our Notre Dame, who is going to be probably a late second round pick, is, ran a little slow. He ran 4.6, but he's huge. He's like an AJ Green, big type, go get the ball, 6'4", 220, makes it amazing hands, makes unbelievable catches. That's a guy, for example, that's going to be a second round pick, and not everyone's going to know his name, but be a hell of a player. And then you got the opposite, Deion Burks from Oklahoma, who tested unbelievable, I think he ran 4.3 flat, jumped out of the gym, and then benched 26 reps at 180 pounds. I mean, holy cow. So he's a guy that in round 2 I think could be really explosive as well. These are guys, again, that are also important. So I would like to talk about Jordan Tyson out of Arizona State. This is a guy that I transparently don't know I didn't watch a lot of his tape. He's basically, if he was fully healthy, I think he's the wide receiver 1 in this class. He's 6'2", 203. He's got the right size. He's kind of wins at all 3 levels. He's quick. He's got good size. I like him. I think he's a good football player, but he hasn't stayed healthy. And when I say he hasn't stayed healthy, I mean he's A, coming off an injury, and B, he's missed time in every single season. Every year he's hurt. I would say he makes a lot of he makes a lot of plays. Like when you watch his tape, he has a lot of plays where you're like, whoa, what? Go back. Like, that was crazy. Makes a lot of those plays. To me, it kind of, I didn't want to get overexcited watching. Like, wow, he makes a lot of really great catches. He makes some really, really great deep ball catches. But I don't like guys that are not durable. So I like him as a late first talent. I think a Pittsburgh would be a great landing spot for him at, I believe, 21. Last, I'd like to talk about Omar Cooper from Indiana. So a lot of people who maybe aren't huge college fans will watch a little bit. This year, Elijah Surratt from Indiana, who's also in this draft, but won't talk about him right now. He was I think a lot of people thought he was the number 1. I mean, maybe I only speak for myself, but as someone who didn't really watch Indiana, I kind of just thought that it felt like they had, Omar Cooper had 930 and Elijah Surratt had 830, and they had basically the same amount of receptions. So very similar, and Elijah Surratt had 15 touchdowns versus Cooper's 13. So they're great, but Cooper is actually a great player, and Surratt is just not an NFL type of player. It just, unfortunately, doesn't have the build or anything for that. I think that as this process goes on, Omar Cooper, who I think was really a second-round talent, is going to move into the end of round 1. What speaks to me about him is he's strong. He catches the ball. He's got great hands. He, like Lemon, great plays over the field. He can, that game winner against Penn State was awesome, and I think I like him as a kind of a Puka Nacua comparison. I know that's a little obviously aggressive. Puka Nacua is a great player, but kind of, gets the ball, make guys miss. So the real question with him is I didn't think he was very fast. For some reason, I didn't think he was super fast. But he actually he ran, I believe, 4.42. So after I saw that time, I'm like, whoa. So not only is he tough, but he's fast too. He ran 4.42, jumped pretty decent. Like, whoa, okay, this guy is a hell of a player. I think he goes in the end of round 1. He's a guy that I thought might go to the Rams, actually, with their last pick that they just traded. Get into that. And then I'll cut that off there. Unfortunately, don't have enough time. Denzel Boston, I love Casey Concepcion this year, another guy that I really like. I'm going to move on. I'm going to try and make an effort to talk about more guys who I like versus just kind of all the top guys. Tight ends, we can really talk about very simple. 1 or 2 guys, make this real quick. Kenyon Sadiq out of Oregon is easily tight end 1 in this class. Could go as high as, I would say, 9. Will not go past 20. Guy is a freak. He ran 3.39, best combine workout for a tight end probably ever. Probably tied Vernon Davis, who, if you don't know, Vernon Davis was kind of like the standard. Like that was a crazy workout. Was it as good as Vernon Davis? Well, this one was. He ran 3.39 as a tight end. Unbelievable. He's a little smaller, not like he's undersized or anything, but I think a lot of guys thought maybe, well, he's so fast, this guy's basically a receiver. Well, can he block? That's kind of the mindset, which was mine too, but he can block. He's a willing blocker. Jumped 43.5, which tied the record for tight ends. 11.1 broad is unbelievable. He is really, really fast, but again, he can block. He's going to come in at 6'3", 240, so he's definitely bigger than like a receiver. On screen plays, and this guy's a menace. Imagine, a tight end, like a Travis Kelce type. Remember, we've all seen Travis Kelce catch all those screen passes and run. Brock Bowers did it a lot his first year. They catch those little bubble screens or little screens and go. Imagine Travis Kelce, but like double the athleticism. I'm not even exaggerating. This guy ran 4.39. That is wicked fast. That for a receiver, that's fast. Again, Carnell Tate, who's the Ohio State receiver, who's probably going to be a top 10 pick, ran 4.53. That is significantly slower than this 440-pound tight end. Unbelievable. He is a phenomenal talent. Very interesting to see where he goes. It's not really a guy like, he's a great player. I know I'm talking him up, but for me, it's like, taking a tight end early is really just, you got to assess the value because tight end's not considered a premium position. Very interesting. The only other thing I want to talk about is Eli Stowers from Vanderbilt, who's he was like some kind of pole vault or something. I don't know. Jumping in high school. Jumped 45.5. So Kenyon Sadiq jumped 43.5 to tie the record, and Eli Stowers shattered it. Unbelievable. Watching him, he levitated off the ground. He'll be an early day 2 pick. I think the Eagles might be screaming his name, which is unfortunate for me. But yeah, so we're going to move on to linemen now. We are 26 minutes in, so I want to keep it moving because defense is really what I want to talk about, and like to do that a little bit of the mock and a little bit of the free agents. So the linemen, I know no one cares about linemen, so probably do this one quick. The thing about linemen, though, you might not care about them, but there's going to be 7 or 8 guys drafted in round 1, linemen. There's going to be a lot of tackles off the board. I'm going to give you their names. So we have Francis Mauigoga from Miami. Definitely did not pronounce that correctly. Spencer Fano from Utah. Blake Miller from Clemson. Monroe Freeling from Georgia. Caden Proctor from Bama. Caleb Lomu from Utah. And Max Ianachor from Arizona State. Those are really the guys you got to know at tackle. If your team needs tackle, which most likely, if you are listening to this, if anyone even is, your team needs tackle. There's not many teams that don't need extra lineman help. And one thing I will say is there's a lot of guys in this spot here, this lineman, where I would probably rather have someone else, right? Would I rather have Francis Mauigoga, who is a great player? Yeah, he's probably the best tackle in this class. Would I rather have him or Caleb Downs? I'd probably rather have Caleb Downs. Rather have him or Sonny Styles, the linebacker. I'd take Sonny Styles. But linemen go. They go off the board because supply and demand. If you look at free agency, there is not tackles available. They do not get to free agency. I cannot stress it enough. These guys do not get to free agency. This year, guy like Rasheed Walker from the Packers was like a 1-year starter at tackle. He was just good. I'm sorry, not a 1-year starter, but a guy who, what I was thinking is he's not great. He's just good, but he stayed on the field. He plays. He's a starter. Just that is enough to get him a huge paycheck. He's going to make $25 million a year. Same thing with, I'm blanking on the name, Booth, I think, from Pittsburgh. Dan something? That's all right. Dan Moore. There it is. Steeler. Not only was he not amazing, I actually thought he was bad for the Steelers. Seriously, I thought he wasn't a good player. But he was a tackle who started and stayed healthy and played, a bunch of starts. He got $80 million last year. I thought that was mind-blowing. And, people were, I don't want to say not surprised, but that's just the market, right? The supply and demand. Unbelievable that Dan Moore got that money. I'm actually just taking a look. He got 4 years, $82 million. Unbelievable. Just because he's a starting left tackle. Just really, really wild. But that's the market on these guys. So you know what you do? You draft them. You draft them, then you re-sign them. So, Fano is very interesting. Super athletic. Watching him run at the combine was awesome. He looked like he could have played linebacker. But his arms are short. 32-inch arms, I believe. 32-inch arms. A little short. That's guard to me. That screams guard. So, the concern for me is that teams are going to view him as a guard. And if you view him as a guard, then he gets downgraded in terms of his value. Last tackle I want to touch on is Monroe Freeling out of Georgia, a guy who's a 1-year starter. I did not like his tape. I thought he got beat a lot. Thought he was off balance a lot. Not sure. He's huge. Okay, he's a big player. 6'7", 315, I believe. He weighed in great. His arms were great. His hands were a great size. He ran unbelievable. He ran under 5-second 5-yard dash. Wicked fast for his size. I mean, really, really like 99 athleticism score type thing. His athleticism score, his raw athleticism score, I got us a 9.3. Ran 4.93. So to me, you need Lyman. He's a super athlete. It correlates. I have a hard time believing he gets out of the top 15. I don't think he's a top 15 player. It's one of those guys that you need the position, you need the potential, you take it a shot. See about him. Very interesting. In terms of guard, there's really only one guy I want to talk about. If I can pronounce it correctly, we'll just call him Vega Ione from Penn State. This guy, I'm just going to keep it very simple. He's a stud of a guard. He's a guard, so he's not in high demand. If you don't know, guards just not as high demand. They get to free agency. The guard class in free agency this year is pretty decent. There's a couple of guys that can play. Tackle, not so much. But this guy's like, he's going to be good. It's one of those guys that you draft and you're like, yeah, he's going to be good. Kind of like Quentin Nelson from the Colts, who was 6th overall, which is very high. This guy is probably that good in terms of just being, he's going to be a good NFL player, but he's a guard. So that's just very interesting to see. He's a no doubt to me. He's a top 15 pick. He's a top 5 player in this class for me. Centers, not really anyone worth mentioning this year, which is interesting. So just something to keep an eye on. If your team needs a center, going to have to either look at free agency, where we'll talk a little bit about Tyler Linderbaum, or take one of these guys in round 2, 3, 4. To defense, we are 31 minutes in. The position that I'm going to gloss over is defensive tackle. I don't love the D-tackle class this year. In fact, I'm really not a fan. There's really just a few guys that are the interesting, players. Lee Hunter out of Texas Tech. He was going into the combine, I'd say the top defensive tackle, but had a really rough combine. Just ran a little slow, didn't jump. He jumped 21.5. I think I could jump 21.5. Broad jump wasn't good. So he's going to be a kind of a stereotypical put your hand in the dirt and go get some pressure and stop the run kind of D-tackle. I think he's a good player, but the athleticism scares me. Caden McDonald from Ohio State is a very prototypical, I'm going to stop the run. Towards the end of the year, started to rush the passer a little bit more, but kind of that's the trend with these guys, is they're good, not great. I have all these guys outside of round 1 personally. I could see one sneaking into them for sure. Two interesting guys. Peter Woods, who I really, really like out of Clemson, had a really good 2024, not this year, but last year. Then he shed 15 pounds to get fast, and then had a not great 2025. Sorry, apologies for that. Here's the thing that you'll learn is that as we talk about Clemson, there's 2 guys from Clemson worth mentioning. One of them is an edge. We'll get to in a sec. TJ Parker. Both had really good tape last year, and then this year were left a lot to be desired. Both I thought were going to be top 10 picks coming into the year. And then, again, neither might be a top 10. Neither will be a top 10 pick. Maybe top 20. So I think that scheme has something to do with it. I think he needs to put back on some weight. But I like him a lot. He's very physical, good athletic specimen. Caleb Banks, don't want to talk too much about out of Florida. Very interesting. Guy basically weighed in as arguably the dream. He's huge, 6'6", 320. So he's 95th percentile height and weight. Then his wingspan was 85, I think, which is probably the biggest I ever remember. I'm sure there's guys that were that big, but dude, this guy is a monster. But his tape is just unbelievably inconsistent. It's like he's just on the field, then he's not. He's doing something, then he's not. To me, and I know since I'm running through time here, I'm being like a little surface level in terms of that, but that really is. It's like you watch him and he makes a great run stop and he gets up and next play, disruptive, bothers the quarterback. You're like, wow, who's that? And then the next 6 plays, he's just irrelevant. And it's not a guy that, because of the combine, because he weighed in so great, and he ran 5.04, by the way, for a guy that's 6'6", 330. That's an unbelievable time. He will get pushed up boards. I've seen him mocked as high as 11 or 10. I don't like that at all. I have him as a day 2 guy. I think he should stay there. So looking at which position I want to talk about next, the deepest position probably in this whole draft is edge, which, as you know, everyone wants edge rushers and needs them. We can talk about linebackers real quick because there's really only a few guys that I want to talk about. One interesting guy that I'll mention to start off is Jacob Rodriguez at Texas A&M. Texas Tech, not Texas A&M. He had, I don't have it in front of me, but stats-wise, an unbelievable season. The guy was just at the football at all times. It's like, I believe he had 7 forced fumbles this year. I think that's a record. I mean, I don't think I need to explain that. 7 forced fumbles is unbelievable in a season. Was a really good PFF grade guy. I think he had 4 picks. He just did everything. I mean, he was all around the ball. I think he had at least a pick 6. Guy just kept making so much plays. I mean, he went to New York as a Heisman finalist. I think he finished 5th in the Heisman. 4 interceptions. Just really, really, really impressive. He was probably one of the best linebackers, or was the best linebacker, was probably the best defensive player in terms of just accolade-wise, stat-wise in the draft this year. And the real concern with him was he's not big enough and he's not fast enough. Like, he's not athletic enough. This is going to be like a college productive guy, but not an NFL productive guy. He tested great. Absolutely great. Jumped 38.5, 10.01 broad, 4.57 40 was a lot faster than people thought he'd run. I think he's going to sneak up there into round 2. Like him for the Dallas Cowboys, if we're being honest. Very interested to see what happens to him. There's 3 linebackers really worth mentioning. It's going to be Sonny Styles out of Ohio State, C.J. Allen out of Georgia, and Anthony Hill Jr. out of Texas. Before the Combine, C.J. Allen was being widely considered to be the second best linebacker, being mocked around the 20s, I would say. He's a typical middle linebacker from Georgia. Anthony Hill Jr., I think, was really a second-round pick from Texas. I've always liked Anthony Hill Jr.'s tape. I've liked him as a player since he's been at Texas. I've always liked him, was always looking forward to him coming out. I honestly thought he would be a little bit more of a heralded prospect than he is. So I kind of have a soft spot for him. I see him jumping into the very, very beginning of round 2. I would prefer him over C.J. Allen. That's going to be a preference pick. Sonny Styles, wow. Probably one of the best combines I've ever seen in my life. If you don't know, he's 6'5", 245, which is huge for a linebacker. 6'5" is unheard of for a middle linebacker. Then he ran 4.46, which is mental, as the fastest of any linebacker. 43.5 vert, ties the record most ever for a player over 6'4". 11.02 broad. Again, these killed the other linebackers. They're not even close. I don't even see a guy on my sheet that jumped over 40 here. I'm looking at the top 20 linebackers. Unbelievable. He just did everything at the highest possible level. He solidified himself. His tape is excellent. He's a freak. Go watch his basketball highlights if you want. And now I'm realizing when I go through the mock draft segment of this, I'm going to really dive into where I think everyone fits, and I'll dive a little bit more into Sonny Styles. So I'll save that for then. I'm going to do the same with a couple of the other positions on defense because a lot of these top defensive guys I have going in the top 10. We could take a look at corner next. There's going to be a few first-round corners in this draft. Mansour Delane out of LSU is going to be the kind of the number one, just this guy does everything well type of corner. I see him going in the top 10. Jermod McCoy, very interesting guy out of Tennessee. Did not play the whole year. Tore his ACL, but had great tape the year before. That's going to be an issue for some teams. Some teams will not draft him because of that. They just, no matter what, they won't draft him. But then his teammate, Colton Hood, is also going to be a back of the first-round pick. Two corners, same school, first round is pretty unheard of. And the last guy that I really want to spotlight is Avion Terrell from Clemson, who is A.J. Terrell's brother. Guy's going to mostly be a slot presence, but his combine workout was phenomenal. He just looked like he was born playing corner. Unbelievably fluid. His hips were great. He's, just everything he did, he looked like an absolute pro. He looked like he was running a drill on how to run those drills as a corner. I definitely think there's a chance where he goes to Dallas at 20. He's just a hell of a ball player. I don't think he jumps out at you. His size isn't amazing or anything like that, but he just did everything solid. And he didn't run the 40. Last guy I want to talk about because I just want to call my shot. Chris Johnson from San Diego State. Coming into the week was definitely a late second, early third guy. Now he's going to go early second. I love Chris Johnson. I mean, if he runs like the other Chris Johnson, then we're in business. He is a technician. Reminds me of Tre'Davious White, guy coming out who had a great career before he got hurt. Just so solid at everything. He can play man. He can play zone. He can press you. His footwork is phenomenal. And the real question mark that everyone had on him, the whole industry really, was his recovery speed, which is a corner. There is a very direct correlation. The top 10 corners last year in passer rating allowed had a 4.4, 2 average 40 time, or 4.44. That's fast. I mean, that's really fast. So of all the positions, everyone makes a big deal out of the 40s. But for some reason, if you didn't know this, for example, offensive linemen, does their 40 time matter? Of course it does. But what teams really look at is the 10-yard split. I've heard that teams don't even look at the 40. They just look at the 10-yard split because I don't need a lineman to run 40 yards. So for each position, it doesn't always matter. But corners, it does matter a lot. And this is a guy where I really feel like he's almost a first-round talent, genuinely. Like, I really love Chris Johnson. But the speed was a big question mark. The recovery speed was just not there. I thought on tape it was a little questionable. This guy got the speed when he gets beat to catch up. And I think that a lot of people were basically saying if this guy can run well, he'll solidify stock. They were hoping he ran 4.5. He ran 4.4 flat. I think that shocked people, me included. And I have him, I think he's going to be a phenomenal NFL player. He'll be in round 2. I would love for the Cowboys to draft him. Unfortunately, we don't have a pick in that area, but I think whatever team gets him is going to get a hell of a player. We got 2 positions left, safety and edge, and I want to run through these quickly because there's 3 safeties that are worth talking about, and they are all going to be in the first round. Safety 1, Caleb Downs. I don't really actually have much to say about him. He's just an all-around stud. He's not big, not tall, not unbelievably athletic, and he plays safety, which is just not an in-demand, a premium position. He still might go in the top 10. I mean, literally, he is not amazing at anything. He is just really goddamn solid at every single thing that he does. He makes everyone around him better. I am very interested to see where he goes in the draft. People are saying I've read people say that he's just not a top 10 guy at safety. Because he doesn't have the ball production as a safety, right? He doesn't have a ton of interceptions or anything like that. I've read, how do you take a guy like that in the top 10 as safety? And I've read, how do you not? As, he's just such a phenomenal player. So, very interested to see where he goes. And the interesting thing was the other 2 safeties who tested, Dylan Thieneman out of Oregon and Emmanuel McNeil-Warren from Toledo, are both going to be, I would say, in between 15 and 30, first rounders for sure. They tested unbelievable. I mean, Thieneman ran 4.35 and jumped out of the gym. And his athleticism, he had one of the best combines of anyone, Dylan Thieneman. He's a center fielder. He can be your Kyle Hamilton, right? Which is what every team wants these days. Because, they want a Nick Emanwar, they want a Kyle Hamilton, they want a Derwin James, a guy that can play the nickel, can play safety, has the ball skills, can lay a hit. He is that guy. And he really is that guy. He's 6 foot, 200 pounds. He's right about where you'd want him. He ran really fast. He can come into the box and make plays, and he can play center fielder, and he's got production with interceptions. McNeil-Warren played at Toledo, smaller school, but just when you watch the tape, he's just everywhere. It's just wow, what a play, wow, what a play, wow, what a play. I see him being I think both these guys, including Caleb Downs, the 3 of them, are just going to be good NFL players, Pro Bowl level. I think Thieneman's a Pro Bowl level player. He reminds me, he could be a bigger Harrison Smith, which, spoiler, maybe that's where he goes. Lastly, we got the edge. The edges. Deepest position in the class. Unfortunately, I could talk about these guys for a long time, but I'm going to try and keep it simple. So, if you're a fan and your team needs an edge rusher, which same thing I said about tackles, you most likely do, there's 2 guys that stand out. It's David Bailey and Arvell Reese. Those are the 2 edge guys, pure edge rusher, Abdul Carter type of guys like last year, just a pure, this guy's going to go sack the quarterback guy. I think those are the 2. Now, people will talk about Ruben Bain. We'll get to him in a sec. But if you're a team and you're the Jets, you're the 2nd overall pick, they're almost certainly going to draft an edge. It's really Reese or Bailey. So let's talk a little bit about them. These are guys, the edge position is one of the most important positions in football. If not the most important, that's not a quarterback. And these guys are really worth talking about. So let's specifically dive into David Bailey and Arvell Reese. Arvell Reese they both of them ran really fast. Reese ran 4.46, lightning quick. David Bailey ran 4.5. Now, these are not small human beings, guys. David Bailey's 250. He's 6'3", 250, and Arvell Reese is 6'4", 240. So they both ran awesome. Their athleticism was off the charts. Well, they basically ran back-to-back. It was unbelievable to watch. Let's talk about the player. Bailey, he's a pure pass rusher. He is there to go sack the quarterback. He's a speed guy, and I think a lot of people have him as the 2nd best player in the draft. He is really, like I said, he's really athletic. He is an excellent athlete. He comes off the edge, but he's more of a speed to power guy. He's not super powerful. He's only 250 pounds. I worry about him being swallowed up in the run game a little bit. I saw a little bit of it on tape. he's going to get after the quarterback, and if you want a guy that can consistently probably get you 10, 15 sacks a year, I think he really is that option. I think he's a great player. His ankle mobility, he's a little tight for me, just doesn't always have the perfect bend. But he's a hell of a guy. He's really a technician. He's got a ton of moves. He's like a vet. He's a guy where he's kind of like a veteran. He reminds me of actually I wouldn't make that comparison, but he's all for a young guy. You see, obviously not even drafted. He's only 22. He's still it's like he's got a full arsenal of moves. But again, the lack of power rushing concerns me because I think a lot of the guys in the NFL now, minus Micah Parsons, which everyone wants next Micah Parsons, are a lot of power rushers, right? That guys that come in the league. Like a guy like Jared Verse, my concern with him is he only power rush. Well, he's doing pretty well. So that's the question. Arvell Reese, I like better. I think the Jets should take Arvell Reese at 2. Just more potential. He's obviously split time in between linebacker and edge. He's like a Micah Parsons. He's split time between both. He had some production at both. He's raw because he barely played. He hasn't played as much end. But this is a guy that is a freak. You just look at him and you're like, wow, that guy is jacked. He looks like an edge rusher. He's got the build for it, and he can grow into it. If they tell him, like Micah Parsons, for example, was about 250, so Arvell Reese is about 240, and then when Micah, obviously full-time pass rusher, he went up to 255, and, to be like a more of a bigger guy, he didn't lose his speed, so you can play around with Reese, and I think the Jets in a position where I think, I've read, it's kind of the mindset where the Jets have not hit on a lot of picks. They've not done well with players that are quote-unquote projects. Bailey, I think, is considered a more surefire thing, where Reese is considered more of a project. As much as you want to call a guy who's at the second or third overall pick a project, but a little bit more. Why not take the guy that is just most likely going to be a really good NFL player? But I like Reese. I don't think that's what you do in the NFL. You don't take just the guy that might be good. I think you take the guy with more explosiveness. His bend is unbelievable. The way that he gets off is just he gets off line of scrimmage real fast. And since I'm talking about get off and bend, I should talk about Rueben Bain. Rueben Bain has the best get off in this draft and the best bend of any player in this draft. He has the best tape of any player this entire draft. He wrecked the college football playoff. He, coming in to this combine and stuff, was considered to be, I think a lot of people had him as, worst. He'd be the 4th pick, worst. Then his arms measured in at 30 7/8. For those who don't know, no one under 31-inch arms, which he's got, again, 30 7/8 inches, has ever had a double-digit sack season. Think about that. Ever. So this guy, you're going to take a top 5 pick, and you might say, well, whatever, arm size, but these things do matter, right? For years and years, people get drafted, quarterbacks get drafted for size, if you're really talented, but you're Kyler Murray, who was still the first overall pick, there's a reason why that's a question mark. It's because guys like Brady and Manning, all these great quarterbacks, they had the size, just for example. And with edge rushers, the arm length thing, I could talk about this for 40 minutes, so I'm going to try and keep it simple, but it's there for a reason, because when linemen are, get their hands on you, the whole point is that he's got to make sure that he doesn't get locked up, because his arms are short. So if he's going against a guy that has huge arms, gets his paws on him, he could just be shot. That's the rep, right? If he gets him in his tracks. But Bain does an excellent job. He plays kind of like he's got shortish arms, but it doesn't matter. He's so powerful. His get-off is unbelievably quick. And he, to me, kind of plays as he knows that that's a little bit of a weakness. He doesn't let guys extend their arms. He doesn't let guys get into his chest. He is the one causing the chaos. He does not let the tackle take the rep. So his tape is unbelievable. He plays like his hair's on fire. His production is great. Unbelievable. I think he can line up over the guard and over the tackle. I am really excited to watch him at the next level, and this whole argument in terms of his arm length, it's very interesting to see how it works out, because if Rueben Bain does not become a good NFL player, I don't think anyone with short arms will ever get picked high ever again. I'm not even exaggerating. And I'll give you this random shout from the past. Only player with under 32-inch arms, a whole extra inch, which is a lot for all of us. Whoever was good in the NFL and had double-digit sacks, Melvin Ingram, 31.5. So, and that was obviously it's pretty significantly bigger than Bain's. At edge, those are really the main guys. I'd love to talk about Kendrick Falk from Auburn, who is basically the dream body. He's 6'6", 280, or dream build, I should say, for an end. but doesn't have a lot of production, only 2 sacks this year. Akeem Mesidor from Miami was Bailey's partner in crime, rushing the passer in the college football playoff, had great production, but is 25 years old. Cassius Howell from A&M had 14 sacks this year, number 1, I believe, right, maybe behind Bailey, but his arms are even shorter than Bane's, and that's going to be a whole nother debate. So these are guys that maybe in the future I'll talk a little bit about more in terms of, like, do you draft Cassius Howell, who's got a great get-off but has no arms? He's a T-Rex. TJ Parker out of Clemson, who I mentioned I'd talk about, but I'm going to skip for time, is one of my favorite edge rushers in the class. Great tape last year, mediocre this year. So lots of decisions to be made, but these edges will fly off the board. So just want to take a very quick, I'm going to try and make it quick since time is running here, on the trades that happened in the NFL this week. So there's been a few. Let's talk about them. First is Trent McDuffie. Trent McDuffie to the Rams, I believe, 1st, 5th, 6th, and a 3rd next year. That's just off the top. Not 100% sure, but I think that's what it is. For Trent McDuffie, who's going to get a contract that starts with a 3 in AAV, I think it's a great trade for both teams. I honestly was thinking McDuffie might get moved. I know that sounds a little easy to say after the fact, but I really think that it just makes too much sense. The Chiefs develop corners, right? McDuffie, Snead, the guy on the Niners, Charvarius Ward, Justin Watson, who's hitting free agency this year. These are all great players, and Chiefs just develop them like nothing. They got great cornerback coach. The Chiefs are in cap hell. McDuffie's on his last year, wants to be paid as a top corner, should. He's a great player. I think it makes a lot of sense for them. You have to trust that you can develop guys, and they do. And the Rams are saying, F it. F them picks, right? Look at it. People are talking about the Rams as if, Stafford's about to go, maybe he has a year left, do they need a Stafford replacement? The Rams were basically a muff punt from going to the Super Bowl, and they would have won the Super Bowl. The Rams are the second best team in football. I'd say probably the first, I would say that the Rams are the number 1 team in football. My personal opinion, I don't see how you would have them below 2 behind the Seahawks. To me, it's kind of like, screw all this Matthew Stafford. You're 1 win from the Super Bowl, probably. Go get players. And it's worked for them in the past. Matthew Stafford, Marcus Peters, Jalen Ramsey, Von Miller, they all traded for all these guys or signed them. Odell, going after known players, trading picks. I think it makes a lot of sense for them. He's McDuffie, by the way, stud. Play inside, play outside. Apparently he's like a 1,000 character guy. Everyone loves him. Great player. And it's his college head coach is the DB coach on the Rams. So I think that's a great fit for them. Interested to see his contract. I bet you the contract gets finalized before the trade becomes official next week. Next trade. DJ Moore to the Bills for a second. DJ Moore and a 5th for a second. My main response is that Brendan, being the GM of the Bills, is Osama bin Laden. He's a terrorist for that trade. A 2nd round pick. I'm just going to ignore the 5th coming back for right now. But 2nd round pick for DJ Moore is nuts. It's nuts. It makes 0 sense. If my team had traded a 2nd round pick for DJ Moore, I would actually be riding. This is a player who has not been as good recently. He's not the guy that was on the Panthers. He's never been a Pro Bowler. He's not like, DJ Moore's a good player. I'm not going to say like he's not useful. I'm sure he'll catch plenty of passes from Josh Allen. I'm sure he'll be an intriguing fantasy football option this year, but he is not worth a 2nd round pick. This year in the 2nd round, you could get a guy that could start at receiver for you for the next 5 years. And I get that they want a known commodity. I do understand they want a known commodity. Josh Allen's clock is ticking. They need to hit on a receiver. They missed on Keon Coleman. They have Shakir, right? They're going to cut the rest of them. But DJ Moore is the difference maker. I have a really hard time believing that they couldn't get someone better for a 2nd round pick. I really, really am shocked. And the worst part is that he's owed $25 million this year. Are you kidding me? For DJ Moore, holy cow, I cannot explain enough how bad I think that is from the Bills. It's like the Bills got gifted Josh Allen and continue to, they've had some good picks, right? They've had Spencer Brown and Deion Dawkins on the tackles for a couple years now. They're good tackles. James Cook has been really good. And it just feels like every other thing that they've done has just been dumb. I don't really have a hard time getting that. I'm not convinced. And the one other trade that I want to talk about, trade or not trade, is Max Crosby. What do I think about Max Crosby? I think he's a hell of a player. I don't think anyone debates that he's a really good player. I think he is worse than he was. I think his production has decreased year over year. Do I think he's a bad football player? He's like regressing? No, but I don't think his best years are in front of him. 2 firsts? No way for me, for Max Crosby. And remember, you're paying this guy a ton of money. I hear it seems to be that he's a hell of a competitor, a great teammate, all that, and I believe all that jazz, but I'm not trading 2 firsts for him. I'm very interested to see where he goes. My guess is going to be 2 firsts from the Bears. Get that deal done. 25 and next year's first, I think, is what seals it. 25 this year for sure, and then maybe a second next year, but I'm going to lean a first, maybe a second and like a fourth or a fifth. He's got a market, right? Everyone needs edge rushers. He's a proven commodity. Like, it matters. You look at Trent McDuffie, it's the same thing. Like, people want their picks, but they want guys to go and win right now. And the Bears are in win now mode, right? Caleb Williams, you got another 2 or 3 years on the rookie deal before you have to pay him. This is their time. And teams know that the rookie QB equals go. It equals right now we need to go all in. So they're going to, I have no problem. They've needed an edge rusher for years. So I think it's a good play. The interesting thing is like the Patriots, who also really need an edge rusher. The Patriots need edge and receiver, and I'm very glad they cut Stephon Diggs. I think I personally, outside of all the off-the-field things, think it makes perfect sense. Everyone was like, oh, really? They cut Stephon Diggs? They saved a ton of money in cap. They can go after a guy like Alec Pierce now, who's going to be there for a few years. They have basically said they're going to operate as if they're not one win from the Super Bowl. They're going to operate as they have a young quarterback and they're trying to build the team, not go all in like the Bears are. But I think for the Bears, it really does make a lot of sense. I like that fit. So, wow, the Bears. I'm just looking at making sure I didn't miss anything, and I see that someone got a B- for the Bills for trading for DJ Moore. That should have been in like a Z. Okay. As much as I would love to talk about free agency, maybe I'll do a post-free agency pod too. I'd like to do a quick mock. That's kind of really what I wanted to get into here. We're 57 minutes in, so I don't want to take too long on this, and I have a strong feeling this will take a little bit. So I've basically highlighted the first round, and I just want to go through, give my thoughts about position. Everyone loves mocks, right? And kind of see what I think is going to happen. So on my computer right now, I got Pro Football Focus up. I'm going to go through and draft the players as they come up. First overall is going to be the Raiders. It's going to be Mendoza. Really no need. We already talked about him in pretty intense detail, and he's going to be number 1. For me, number 2, like I mentioned, it's going to be the Jets need an edge rusher. It's going to be Reese or Bailey. It's just Ruben Bain, I think, is a great player, but he's not a pure, with the arm length concerns and all that. It's just, I think he's a great player. I just don't think he goes here. And I'd like to add, by the way, before I continue, that I haven't done this, so I'm kind of doing it as we go on here. So if I deliberate a little bit or I'm not 100% sure, I might go back, but just throwing that out there. So I'm going to go with Arvell Reese as pass rusher number 2. Jets basically get their choice, right? And they have another first. So you go get your edge rusher, and then you go get another need after 16. Next is going to be Arizona. I've heard 3 things for Arizona. Arizona needs everything, right? They need quarterback, but they need everything. They need guard. They need offensive line. Bad. They need defensive line. Bad. And when you have nothing, which the Cardinals just have almost nothing, which is sad but true. They have 2 receivers. They got Michael Wilson and Marvin Harrison, but that's about it. You build line, right? That's where you start, because edge rushers and offensive tackles are the hardest things to get and the things that everyone needs. You cannot win without a good, decent offensive line. Look at the Patriots. I'm surprised they got as far as they did, but you can't win without linemen. You can't win without pass rushers. And those, again, highest in demand, most expensive to pay. And because of that, you go and get these guys when you have this pick. So for me, I've heard Jeremiah Love's an option here. I think that's crazy. I think it's got to be edge or tackle. I think a lot of people think that tackle is more of a need, but I'm going to go with the best player of those 2 groups, and I think that's David Bailey. I think it makes perfect sense for them to go get an edge rusher there. They don't get the choice. They get between Reese and Bailey, whoever falls from the Jets, but I like either one there. 4 is going to be Tennessee. Tennessee is my first kind of I'm not exactly sure pick here. They are another team that really needs everything. They need an offensive line for Cam Ward. I really think they could use a weapon. I think a lot of people like Carnell Tate here to the Titans, but I don't think Carnell Tate is worthy of being the 4th overall player. I don't love the pick. I kind of like Ruben Bain here. I think if I don't know how teams are going to feel about his arm length. I'm not a coach or a scout. I don't have insight. I think he's still a hell of a player. I still think he'll be probably a top 10 pick, but it wouldn't shock me if a guy like him did fall a few picks. I'm going to take Jeremiah Love here. I think if you're the Titans, you pair him with Cam Ward. You already have the quarterback. I don't love taking a running back without much of a line, but they do have some linemen. It's not like the Browns or, the Cardinals where they're really just a complete mess. I mean, the Cardinals got Paris Johnson, but they need to pay him. Jeremiah Love's the best player in the draft. I don't hate pairing him with Mr. Cam Ward. It makes for a dynamic backfield. I like that. 5 is the Giants. I got no clue. Just going to be completely honest. For me, they could go Delane out of LSU. They need corner. They need DBs, right? So Delane or Caleb Downs could go here, but I think Downs is a safety. This is a bit high for him. So then I'm down to the 2 players being Sonny Styles. They could use a linebacker, and John Harbaugh always loves having a good little linebacker. Sonny Styles as a prospect is a top 5 player in this class, absolutely deserving of being picked here. The Giants need a right tackle, right? They have Andrew Thomas. They whiffed on Evan Neal. They've had a whole rotating group of linemen. To me, the Giants here are kind of getting lucky that at 5, you're getting your first choice of lineman ahead of the Browns, who absolutely need one. And if Mayawaga doesn't go here, he's going to go 6, I think. So for the Giants have a left tackle, right? They have Andrew Thomas. Carnell Tate is absolutely an option here to go aside. Neighbors is coming off an injury. One thing that I really value is that if you're going to get a young quarterback, they have Jackson Dart, see what he can do. Meaning, if you get a guy, don't give him no offensive line and no receivers or no running back and draft all defense. Give him weapons. See if he's the guy. Give him a shot. I'd rather have the Raiders draft every single pick this year on offense. And guess what? If Mendoza ends up being good and they get some linemen for Genty and Bowers, and they get a receiver, then you got something and you can go put your gas, pedal to the metal. But you got to see if you got it. So for Dart, I like the idea of getting a receiver. I'd probably say it's their number 1 need. But for me, I solidify the line here. Giants have always needed linemen. I'm going to get Mayawaga. I pronounce it different every time, and it's wrong every time. Out of Miami. He's probably the best lineman in this draft, outside of Vega from Penn State, the guard, who, remember, is a guard. And he's a tackle. He's going to play right tackle. He could kick inside, but he's got the size to play tackle. I like him at right tackle for the Giants. I'm going to take him at 5. 6 is the Browns. They need linemen. Holy cow. And I personally don't love the linemen that are left. Spencer Fano, for me, is definitely the next best lineman. I don't love Monroe Freeling, who, if Monroe Freeling, who's, that tall, athletic, from Georgia, tested off the charts, if he ends up going 6, I would not be surprised when draft day comes. I'm interested to see what happens in between now and then. And Fano is interesting because he's probably going to play guard. So this is a guy who, maybe, if you're the Browns and you're like, oh, we need a tackle, we'll take Fano. But if he ends up playing guard, then 6 for a guard is quite high. The thing about Fano that's interesting is outside of the fact of his arm length is that he can play every position on the line. So the reason I like him for the Browns is because if they take him, they can throw him at right tackle, see if it works. If it doesn't, they can kick him to guard. He'll be a very good guard. And he's got the durability and the versatility to move and play all over, play center, play left guard, play right guard. I like him here. I think they go receiver. I think because they have another first, they got picked 24. I think you definitely can get one of the tackles in that spot. I think the Browns here say screw it and take Carnell Tate. They need offense. Shout out Mr. Matthew Falcone, my residential Browns fan. I asked him what his number 1 preference was for need. He said receiver. I think it makes sense here to just get a weapon. I like Carnell Tate. And they like their OSU guys there in the great state of Ohio. Next is Washington. Washington needs defense. To me, that's no question they need defense. Worst defense in the league last year, just ahead of the Bengals and the Cowboys for the last spot. There's 2 really good defensive players here. Caleb Downs, again, I don't want to undercut Caleb Downs. He's a great player, but I just don't see him, especially with how good the other safeties are. I don't see him, being reached for here when a guy like Sonny Styles is still available. The 2 best players on the board right now are Sonny Styles and Ruben Bain. It's definitely going to be one of them. I really think you can take either here. Sonny Styles is a better I don't know. Sonny Styles, I think, you could argue he's one of the best players in this draft, like really one of the top 1 or 2 guys in this class. But I think edge rusher just, again, gets the priority. I'm going to take Ruben Bain here for Washington. I would not be happy as a fan in that division to see him go there. 8's going to be the Saints. I previously had them taking Jeremiah Love. I still think there's a really good shot he goes 8. I just wasn't exactly sure who to give the Titans. I absolutely see a world where Bain goes 4, Styles goes 7, and then Jeremiah Love goes here, leaving my Cowboys with none of the players that I want. Who do the Saints need? I mean, I think they're trying to build around Tyler Shuck, right? They got Olave, but they don't really have anyone else in that offense. They don't really, they have Jawan Johnson, who's a decent tight end. Kamara's old. Kendre Miller has worse injury problems than I do. I think they could really go anywhere here, but I like receiver. Unfortunately, I just don't love the options. I think it's a little high for any of the guys receiver. Just think about Mekhi Lemon, though. Mekhi Lemon's going to catch 1,000 balls in the NFL because he's just going to be your Amon-Ra, go get 1 million targets. For a guy like Tyler Shuck, who's got Olave, who's a true, Olave's an outside receiver, I actually think having Mekhi Lemon would be a good fit. Just a guy to get comfortable and just, you need me over the middle, I got you. You want me on a slant, I got you. I think it's a good fit here. I think it's a little early for him, and I think that with the combination of that and the fact that the interviews reportedly went poor, it gives me a little bit of pause, but I'm just going to say that they take Mekhi Lemon here. I could see them taking the best, like a guy like Caleb Downs. Just, Caleb Downs, Sonny Styles, to me, are just true difference makers. So to me, in this situation, I could see them going defense, but I think they want to build around Tyler Shuck. Again, give him that fighting shot that I talked about. I'm going to have the Saints taking Mekhi Lemon here at 8. 9, we got the Chiefs. The Chiefs need corner. Just traded McDuffie. I actually had them in my first mock that I didn't, post or anything, but had them trading McDuffie and drafting Mansour Delane, so that was a nice little validation point there. I'm going to give him Mansour Delane. He's the best corner in the draft. They love their ability to develop corners. They obviously have pick 29 now, so I guess, or 29, I think, from the Rams. I think that's the pick. Yep, 29. Is there a chance that they go best player available here? And there's a situation, in this mock, Sonny Styles and Caleb Downs are still on the board, who I definitely think are better than Delane. Do I see a world where they take that and say, we'll get corner at the end of round 1? Yeah, because there is options at the end of round 1. In fact, right now, as I'm literally talking this through, I'm feeling the urge with them losing Leo Chenal in free agency to say, hey, Sonny Styles. But I'm going to stick with it and give them Delane at corner, fill that need. They know how to develop those guys. Bengals defense. Best defensive player available here for me. Again, I think Sonny Styles or Caleb Downs are great. I think they need more help on the back end. I think they miss Jesse Bates. They let him walk. He's a real difference maker. I'm going to give him Caleb Downs here. Just to be clear, I don't think Sonny Styles will end up falling this far. But as of right now, just because of how this mock is working, I'm just going to throw that out there, that I don't think he'll end up falling this far. I think he boosts his stock too much at the combine. If I'm a Cowboy fan, I'm loving it right now because I'm thinking that Sonny Styles is going to come be a Cowboy. There's a shot the Dolphins, who have the 11th pick, could definitely take him. I'm just realizing now that the teams are not up here. I do think I mentioned each team, so no one's looking at it. Dolphins are at 11. Their number one needs probably a quarterback, and they need someone outside Jalen Waddle, but I do not like the other receivers enough. Jordan Tyson's a really good player, but again, I just don't like a guy that can't stay healthy. I'm going to give him Spencer Fano here. Fano, however you want to say it. They need a guard. He can definitely play guard. They're going to lose their top tackle to free agency, and he's a guy that I think can play both sides. So I think that's a good overall just building block for a team that is rebuilding. The Cowboys here, if this was the scenario, Sonny Styles, it's automatic. Automatic, he's going there. Great fit for the Cowboys. They would be blessed. Then we got the Rams. I talked about a little bit how I think they're really trying to win the Super Bowl. They're not trying to get a succession plan. I was listening to something where I heard that apparently, I guess this is a thing, that people in the league think that Sean McVay is going to leave when Stafford leaves to go do television. I don't know. Doesn't make sense to me. I don't think they're planning a succession plan. I think they want to get him weapons. I think Mekhi Lemon would be a fantastic fit if he's on the board here for them. Adams is getting old. He's got 1 year left on his contract. Kind of fill in and be the next him and Puka for the next few years. A lot of people say they could take a weapon. Maybe they take Kenyon Sadiq out of Oregon. I'm actually saying I'm not 100% sure what I think with this pick, but I think that the receivers, it's a little too early for me to comfortably take either of them, and I don't think you're taking the quarterback replacement here. I think they could double up on corner, and that's actually what I'm going to have them do here. They trade for McDuffie, but that back end's a mess. There are a bunch of free agents back there. I like Jermod McCoy here for them. He's more, if you want to say developmental, he had great tape the year before last year, but the fact they didn't play this whole season just gives me a little bit of pause with an injury, but his tape is first-round tape. He plays really well with his hand in your chest, just can run, play man, play press. He's versatile, and obviously he can play zone as well, but I really liked him in man coverage. I think that he's a good pick for the, as they develop, they'll have McDuffie there. If this guy ends up developing, you got two good corners the next several years. I think that's a home run pick there. We got the Ravens at 14. They need a guard bad. They're just like the Ravens are the Ravens when they have a good guard. I'm going to give them Vega Ione here from Penn State. He's a top 15 talent. I think at this point it's like he's too good to not pick. Next, we got the Buccaneers. I think they go defense. I just think that the defense was so meh last year. They're losing Jamal Dean, who was excellent this year. What happened was Jamal Dean had a not great 2024. So they paid Zion McCollum and let Jamal Dean walk into his last year of his contract. And then Zion McCollum had a horrible season, and Jamal Dean had a good season. Lucky enough for them. So they're in a bad spot now. I think they need corner. I think they need linebacker. Sonny Styles would be the dream pick here at 15 for them. They need edge rusher. I actually really like them to take an edge rusher. I think they need one. But the problem is the two top guys available are Mesidor, who's 25 years old, and Falk, who I think is not a pure pass rusher. He's more of like a overall set the edge type of guy. It's a little early for TJ Parker. I'll have them take Kenyon Sadiq here. K-Dot's walking in for agency. They have the receiver group now that Mike Evans is going to be leaving is going to be Chris Godwin, Emeka Ibuka, and Jalen McMillan, which is a solid group with Tez Johnson. But to me, it's not like elite. It's just good. So I like the idea of adding a really elite tight end in Kenyon Sadiq here. Again, I do think they'll go defense, but none of these guys stand out to me. So I'm going to give them, and I think Sadiq's a top 15 talent. So I'll give him Kenyon Sadiq here at 15. 16 for the Jets. I could talk about the Jets for a long time in terms of how I think this is going to go. I actually texted my friend Max, who's a Jets fan, that I think 2028, the Jets are going to be chilling. I think going into the draft next year, if they use their cap space right into next free agency, they got four first-round picks next year, unless I'm making that up and it's 3, but it's at least 3. Man, they're going to be bad. I think what would be best for them is to go get some random veteran quarterback, like a not Russell Wilson, but just some guy to play quarterback this year and do okay, maybe like a Jimmy Garoppolo, something like that. I think Jimmy Garoppolo goes to Arizona, but whatever. And do not touch the quarterback and just be bad. But if that's going to be the case, well, what do they need? Well, you just want someone that, when the future comes around, is going to be a hell of a player. So I guess you could go best player available, but I like the idea of a lineman. They're losing Elijah Vera-Tucker in free agency. To me, it's like you can never have enough linemen. They don't have a great line to begin with. Let's take one of our tackles here. At this point in my draft, Monroe Freeling is still here from Georgia. I don't know that I think he will be in real life. I think a team would trade up for him at this point, but I like it here. And if you're the Jets, you get a pass rusher and an edge, the two hardest positions to fill. I'm going to take Monroe Freeling for the Jets here. 17 is going to be Detroit. They need a center. Their center retired. And they need a tackle, too, because apparently their tackle, Taylor Decker from Ohio State, might retire, too. So what do they need? They need edge rushers, but they also need linemen. So I'm in a bit of a funky spot here in terms of whether I would give them a tackle. The tackles here are, I think you're reaching a bit. I think they're first-round talents, but I think late first round. So I think here they go and they look at, say, give me the best edge rusher. And I like, right now I'm looking at Mesidor and Falk, and I think a lot of people have those two guys. I think by the end of this process, TJ Parker moves up in front of them. So I'm going to give them TJ Parker at 17. I think he's a good fit for the Lions. He'll play opposite Aiden Hutchinson. 18 is the Minnesota Vikings. Let's keep this really easy. They need a running back because they're going to cut Aaron Jones. But they're not going to take him here. They just lost Harrison Smith to retirement. Go take the white safety, Dylan Thiedemann, who I think is if he makes it to 20, I'd love for Dallas to take him. I think he's going to be a really good player in the league. Why not here, right? It almost makes too much sense. It's kind of funny. 19, we got the Carolina Panthers. They need a couple different areas, which is a little interesting. I really think they need linebacker, but I think C.J. Allen, I think you're getting a little bit early here on him. So I would lean away from them taking a linebacker. I think that you kind of just maybe take best player available here, if I'm being honest. Who is the best player available? That's a good question. Their defense played pretty well last year. So this is honestly one pick where I feel like so far when I've thought about who do I think the Panthers are going to take, I'm not sure. I guess we'll say edge rusher because they didn't have a great edge rushing attack this year. They have Derek Brown, who's phenomenal, but I'd say that's it. I'm going to give him Kendrick Falk. He's a little more of a project. They're not a Super Bowl contending team next year. He gives you the potential. I like that there at 19. At 20, we got the Dallas Cowboys. Here you got a ton of options because you could go Mesidor at edge. Cowboys need edge. You can go McNeil Warren at safety. They need safety. I'm going to go with Avion Terrell, the corner. I think they are trying to build something. I think he's good for their new Christian Parker scheme. I think he's going to be a good corner in the league. Why not? Steelers, Jordan Tyson. They need a receiver. Holy cow. They need someone outside DK Metcalf. Jordan Tyson's a playmaker. To me, 21 is late enough that, yes, he's got injury concerns, but he's got the potential too. Very worthwhile. I think we're going to kind of slow up here. I don't want to go through all 32 teams. This has already been a long recording, hour and 15 minutes. We can do one more pick here. We got the Chargers. They have, obviously could use some offensive line depth. They got Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt at left and right tackle when healthy, which they weren't. Their center guard and guard were awful. I think I'm being kind. I mean, probably the worst in football. So I think this is an area where maybe Emmanuel Pregnon from Oregon, who is the second rated guard on my board, he's probably like a 35, 36 ranked guy. Maybe they reach up for him. The Chargers, Jim Harbaugh, I feel like they're the type of team that would reach instead of taking best player available, but I could be wrong. I think they could also use some D-line help. They just, Khalil Mack's going to be walking out the door. They traded, or they're going to lose Owe O'Day. I'm blanking on his name. Ofo Adoe. That's all right. They got him from the Ravens. He's going to walk. They could probably use an edge rusher, and I think that's a team that's, because they have so much money in free agency, which if you don't know, the Chargers are like top 5 in free agency money, and they have the quarterback, they have the tackles, they have the receivers, they got a tight end, they got a running back. I feel like they're not so far from competing. So I like Akeem Mesro. He's 25 years old, but you want to use these prime years right now. And I think I'm going to hang off here with the Eagles. They could go a lot of different directions here. So then we're going to leave this here with a mock. So we got Mendoza to the Raiders, Reese to the Jets, David Bailey to the Cardinals, Jeremiah Love to the Titans, Francis Maioga to the Giants, Carnell Tate to the Browns, Ruben Bain to Washington, Makai Lemon to the Saints, Mansour Delane to the Chiefs, and we'll round it out with Caleb Downs to the Bengals in the top 10. At some point, I will be doing a full 32 mock. I already did a 2-round mock, but it's a little early to be putting that out there, and I'm looking forward to free agency next week. Maybe closer to the draft, we'll do a full mock with a free agency recap. Very interesting. My only heads up, if your team is, if you think about what your team's going to be in free agency, I'd say that there's the random linemen, the guys that have been productive, that for tackle, just the guys that have played. Literally, the guys that have played and proved that you can start, even if they're not great, are going to make $20 million plus. And the really solid linemen are going to make $20 million plus. Tyler Linderbaum, the center from the Ravens, I think is going to make $20 plus as a center. So very interesting to see what happens there. And thanks for listening, if somehow you're still listening. And hit me with any questions, and be looking forward to this draft process and baseball season. Thanks.